An ambassador is not an influencer. An ambassador is someone that actually uses your product, physical or not, doesn't matter. So we send out to the customer list, hey, we're launching this ambassador program. If you feel comfortable on camera, if you love Sweet Flex leggings, we would love to have you as an ambassador. We'll incentivize you with free product, which if they love your product, they'll definitely love free product.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It is my pleasure to have Molly Pittman back with us. She was a guest in 2016, one of my first episodes, and she is a leading digital marketing strategist, educator, entrepreneur. She's trained over 10,000 people across the globe. By the age of 24, she had risen from intern to vice president at an 8-figure digital marketing company. Now the CEO of Smart Marketer, Molly is mentoring the next generation of digital marketers. She's helped her students do everything from get positions at Fortune 500 companies to quadruple their revenue in 1 month. Molly, it's so great to have you back.
Hey, Stephan, thanks for having me back. I can't believe it's almost been 10 years. That's like 50 years in the digital world.
Yes. Each year is like a dog year of 7. So
I agree.
Crazy times. Yeah, awesome. And some of the things that we would have talked about back then have changed so drastically. I don't even, it's like episode 37 and we're into the 400s now. So yeah, so much has changed.
Good on you for being consistent with the show. That's harder than it looks.
Yes, it is. It is every week. Yeah. A lot of work. So you used to be a co-host of the Perpetual Traffic podcast. And are you ever back on there on Digital Marketers podcast as a guest or as maybe a sometimes co-host?
Yeah, I think I was on in the last 6 to 12 months probably. So always fun to hop back on there. Perpetual Traffic was such a big part of my career and getting to share and kind of see how a show like that goes down. But yeah, it didn't make as much sense when, I hopped on and started managing Smart Marketer. So we have the Smart Marketer podcast now, if any of you guys want to give that a listen. But yeah, Perpetual Traffic has been a huge part of my career. Really grateful for that experience.
Yeah. And also speaking at Traffic and Conversion Summit, I think that's how I first heard of you. You've done some amazing presentations over the years at TNC.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean that.
What would be like your favorite topic or session or keynote that you've done for them?
Good question. And I think what's cool about that event, by the way, is, I started with Digital Marketer as an intern. So the first year that I ever went to Traffic and Conversion Summit, I was working one of the booths. I had an orange t-shirt on, with staff on the back. Like I was taking in the whole event. Like, what is this? What's happening? And then it was really cool to then get to speak and be a part of, marketing and planning that event. Just really great memories. I would say the year that I actually resigned from working there, I still was a part of that upcoming TNC because I'd already been in the mix helping to plan. And I did a presentation on Facebook Messenger strategy. So this was 2017. This is when that was, such a huge topic in the market, when it played more into the ad side of things and not just organic. And before Facebook slapped a lot of restrictions onto the channel. But that's a memorable one because it was emotional for me and, my role changing and how I related to the event. And it was really fun to get to share on the topic that everybody was excited about at that time. I'm a big sports person and I love plays. Like I love giving people actionable plays. It's something I've really liked to build my whole career. And that was the first time that I actually did that. I think I gave 5 or 7, messenger plays with the visuals, and still something that I do now for different topics. So that taught me that lesson too.
Yeah, cool. So, what sort of speaking gigs do you do now?
Ooh, good question. So last year I did a lot of smaller masterminds, just where I could make a bit of a deeper connection with people. So that was fun. This year I haven't been speaking at events. I've turned it down just because I have my wedding coming up and I want to be really fresh. We launched an agency side of our business a little less than 2 years ago, and it's been really fun, but it requires Molly to be more in deep focus work and less networking, Molly. Because you get it. It's not just, okay, I'm going to go speak at an event. You know, there's the travel, there's a lot of energy. It really, in the end, takes about a week out of my schedule, which is, was worth it and has been in the past. But now I've had to rein that back in a little bit. But we're actually having a live event in October called Smart Marketer Live. It's sort of a non-marketing marketing conference. It's going to be about 500 people. You guys can check it out, smartmarketer.com/live. But it's going to be really fun. We're rethinking kind of what the marketing industry, we put out a bunch of surveys. What do you guys want out of conferences? Because the marketing community wants to gather, but I think they're past, let's sit in a hotel without windows and listen to people sort of speak at me. So we're really doing a new take on that.
Awesome. So, what exactly is smart marketer? Is it like the opposite of dumb marketer? What's the value prop?
Yeah, Smart Marketer, we do a few different things, which is fun. I mean, we're really here to help business owners or marketers figure out performance marketing and get the results that they want. So part of our business is more training. So we have courses and mentorships on, the main skill sets that you need in digital marketing. We do a lot of live classes, which is really fun. So like Train My Traffic Person, which is the live mentorship that I teach. It's not just a course on paid ads. There's a Slack group with our team in it, and I'm on calls with them every week. And really that feedback loop that I think a lot of people need. It's not just learning, but it's applying it and, ooh, how does this work in this particular scenario, and really getting guidance on that. So we have the training side, podcast, all of that. And then, yeah, we have a marketing agency where we provide services for businesses. So paid advertising, email marketing, creative services. So that's really fun. And it's made us smarter in terms of the courses. We have so many more use cases now we can put forward to help people.
Yeah. So, how much do you spend of your clients' money in paid advertising per month on the agency side?
Ooh, so I just got this number back. We are teetering on about 8 million a month right now.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, all direct response, results based. It's really fun.
So, what do you mean by results based? How does that look?
Well, for example, I was at a Facebook event at their New York office last week, and they were speaking to two different groups. People like us that are more performance, direct response. We need to see a certain ROAS to keep the company afloat. And then you have huge businesses who set marketing budgets every quarter, and their goal is to spend that money. And their success metric might be CPM or how many people they've reached. So we did try some deals with companies that are more in that mode, and it just wasn't as fun for our team. They want to get the results. So, yeah.
Gotcha. And how did you end up partnering up with Ezra Firestone?
Good question. So after I left Digital Marketer, didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was the only thing that I knew. I would not work for someone else again. So for a few years, and when I saw you in Australia, that meant consulting. I had some ad clients. I had 2 or 3 people on my team. I basically had a small agency, but I really missed being a part of a team. That's just core to who I am. Even working out, it's like I love CrossFit, not even because of the workout, but because there's a group of people there. It's just I function better that way.
Mhm.
And Ezra and I had been friends for a long time since I was an intern. Actually, the first product he produced at Digital Marketer, I worked on that product. So I got to meet him. I think I was like 21 and he was like 24. This was a long time ago. And so Ezra had me come up to New York and just kind of feeling out what was going on. And he's like, Molly, I've got Smart Marketer and I'm not giving it the time and energy that it needs. I'd love to bring you on 50-50 business partner. And, I think we'll do more together. So that's how that started 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah. One thing I believe is that our business partners, our spouses, even our children and our parents, that we've all chosen each other prior to incarnating, that this is all kind of a rigged game. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, absolutely. I mean, first off, I'm a huge proponent for any sort of partnership because doing anything by yourself is just not as fun. And that's one of our big mantras at Smart Marketer. We say fun is the goal. So we know if we're having fun, we're going to be successful and we're enjoying the journey. We're not about this hustle grind mindset. And then love is the way. So if you're ever questioning how in which you should do something, it should be in a loving way. And I think that's what makes it fun to work with other people. But no, I totally believe that we have contracts and the people we're working closely with or in families, we have definitely done that in some other shape and form in the past.
Hmm. Yeah. Awesome. So, what do you think is like your next big, I don't know, goal or chapter or um, I don't know, level in this video game called life?
Good question. I recently added a new component to my life that's been really fulfilling. So I grew up in Kentucky and I moved away for 12, 13 years, just moved back a couple of years ago, and I started a dog rescue. And it's something I've always wanted to do. I love animals. I knew I would be working in some capacity with saving dogs. It's always been on my mind. And it was just the right time. We bought a farm. I now have this business skill set. I've got the business community that's willing to help. So we converted our barn into dog kennels. And then I partnered with an existing rescue that was having trouble with fundraising. And so last year we saved 2,500 dogs from euthanasia. And it's again a team effort, right? The ladies that I work with the rescue, we all have our strengths. I basically tap the business community for big donations, which they get a write off and feel good about. We have a whole foster network built, and it's given me a different energy source that I've never been able to obtain through business that I think I was looking for business to give me, and it just wasn't its role. And it's made everything in my life just have more purpose, if that makes sense. I know that's a word that's thrown around a lot, but it's just a completely different energy source that actually makes my business and personal life better. Because a lot of people might hear that and they're like, oh, I don't have time for something like that. But I do get so much more out of it than I put in. So I think furthering that mission is on my mind. Obviously, growing Smart Marketer. We are not in the mindset that scale is always desirable. You hear that in our industry. It's like scale, 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 scale your business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, great, I've 5x'd my revenue and I have the same amount of profit as I did back when I was 5 times smaller. And now I have 5 times the problems, right? And that's not always the case, but we are always looking to grow and serve more people. And see what happens with that business.
Yeah, that's cool. So, did you get a Google grant? So you're doing like Google ads on the dog rescue and stuff like that to raise donor money.
Okay, what's interesting is I have barely applied any digital marketing skill sets to that nonprofit at all. The reason being is Kentucky is a really rough place for animals to be from a law standpoint and how humans treat animals. And so we rescue them and house them here, and then they're transported up north to be adopted. So we partner with other rescues. So right now, until we decide if we're going to build out, a whole adoption system here in Kentucky, our main model is going to business owners that are already in the smart marketer ecosystem and incentivizing them to give us, 5-figure plus donations, which is more than helped us get to where we are now. But yeah, we'll be adding on, like, we don't even have a website for our rescue. So those components will be added later.
Yeah. This just popped in my mind. I think it's a interesting model or idea for you potentially to apply to your dog rescue. So one of my clients is Yosha Law Firm. Brandon Yosha is Jay Abraham's cousin. So I met Brandon through Jay. Jay referred him and has been a client now for several years. And one initiative that Brandon put out there and was very successful with, it was called Nora's Law, named after this little girl, Nora. I think she was 3 years old, who lost her life when a vehicle, I think it was a truck, did not move over. And her mom and the child were in the car, stranded in the emergency, like on the shoulder with the emergency lights on. And in some states, you have to get over a lane to make room, but not in Indiana. It was only required for emergency vehicles, and it wasn't an emergency vehicle. So what Brandon did as part of taking on this case for Nora's parents, which they did get a really amazing settlement, a large settlement from it. But one of the initiatives that Brandon took on, just on his own volition, was to get the law changed so that it wasn't just emergency vehicles that had to get over, get a lane over, and it was successful. So that was Nora's Law that he pushed through. I wonder if maybe there's an equivalent for you in terms of in the state of Kentucky, where it is really tough on animals. Maybe you could get the law changed.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Definitely something we could work on for sure.
Yeah, because with Nora's Law, they had a separate website. He got on TV and talked about it. Yeah.
Amazing. I love it.
Awesome.
New project.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a difficult part of this, and running a business is I also have to accept at all times that I'm never doing everything I could do, but that's okay, or I wouldn't have a life. And that's someone asked me yesterday, like, Molly, I want to do what you're doing, but how does that work? Like, even with the number of hours you have in a day. And I was like, two things. Number one, you have to trust other people to help you, and you have to have help. And number two, you have to accept you're not going to do everything right now. And yeah, it's tough though.
Yeah. I'm reading a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
It's by Dan Sullivan, the founder of Strategic Coach, and Ben Hardy. And the premise is it's easier to 10X your business than 2X it, because there's practically infinite ways that you could double your revenue and your profit and your client numbers and all that. But there are very few ways that you can 10X it. So if you give up all the 2X opportunities, tasks, projects, etc., set those aside, and then only take on 10X opportunities, it will free you up to really leapfrog and get multiple levels up in that video game. So I don't know how that resonates with you, but as an example, if you could think for a second, like what could I do to 10x smart marketer or 10x the dog rescue, what would that be?
Well, it's fun. We just had this conversation earlier today as a leadership team. So this is on my mind. And we're at a pivotal point. Like a lot of businesses come to probably every 5 million in revenue. You hit this point where the systems that you have, the way you've been doing things no longer serve where you want to get, and there's chaos. And the big message today was, okay, how do we simplify this? Like essentially what you're saying, like what are the things we can quit doing, right? That maybe help a little bit, but they're more 2x. And what are the things we could do that are more 10x? And what we identified are two things. One is that our creative service in the agency is the most simple service you can provide because you're handing over a set of ad creatives. It's much less complex than a complete paid media service or email marketing or something that's just, it's got so many pieces to it that makes it harder to scale as a service. So let's go all in on that versus trying to sell all of these services a la carte. Let's then lump the other ones together as more of a performance deal where someone comes to us and they're not paying us for each channel, but they get truly, a marketing team, if you want to think of it like that. And then instead of paying us a huge retainer every month, it's some sort of percentage deal based off of their revenue. So I feel like for Smart Marketer, that's what's next, or that's what we're going to try, and really trying to focus less on the smaller things that work for us, but like you're saying, don't have as much of an impact. For the dog rescue, ooh, that's a good one. I mean, maybe something like you mentioned, going and trying to actually change things at the source is huge. I also think there's just, I don't know if it's a marketing campaign or what it looks like, but changing the mindset of humans on rescue dogs, right? And how rescue dogs act, or if we could change that mindset and increase the amount of people that are willing to rescue a dog versus buy from a breeder, most of these problems wouldn't exist in the first place. And then another one, which we're working with a spay and neuter clinic right now, of course, is like, how do we prevent there from being more dogs? So if we could change the legislation, if we can spay and neuter and decrease the amount of dogs, and then if we can change consumer behavior, hopefully all of that would even out to, okay, dogs don't have to be euthanized. Because a lot of the conversations I have, people say, oh, I bought a dog from a breeder because I have a kid, or things that, sure, logically that kind of makes sense. But if you dug in or did a little more research, it's like, wow, there is any type of dog is in rescue, right? Or any scenario that you are in, there is a dog that would be perfect for you.
Yeah. Just a crazy out there idea that just popped in my head. What if you partnered with a dog whisperer? Somebody who's famous, like who's that? Cesar Milano or Tamar Geller. She wrote The Loved Dog. She's had her own TV show and so forth on training dogs. What if you had a free dog training, dog discipline course online, and it came with an adoption? So you get the course for free if you adopt a rescue dog, but you normally would pay for that course. So you can pay for it. I'm just riffing here. I'm just thinking
I
out
like
loud.
that.
But
Yeah. And then they get the education.
yeah. And it's an education, not
That's
just
smart.
from random somebody who knows things about dogs, but like one of the top people in the world in terms of dog training.
Yeah, I love that. That's a
Yeah.
great idea, and exposure to their audience too.
Yeah. Yep. So Tamar Geller actually was a guest on my other podcast, my personal development podcast called Get Yourself Optimized. If you'd like, I can make an intro if you like this idea. Yeah. I don't know Cesar Milano, but I love Tamar Geller. She's amazing. And I actually prefer her approach to dog training over Caesar's.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just more B2B connections. A lot of our clients now are big pet supplement brands or pet education companies because they hear me talk about dogs and they're like, okay, I trust Molly with marketing and she knows the dog space. And that's where most of our fundraising comes from too. So any connections like that are really helpful.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And of course, for our listener who has connections with pet food brands, with anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had the Marshall Morris, who started I Heart Dogs, one of the biggest media properties in the pet space, just had him on our podcast and we've had some back and forth. And it's like, those are the perfect relationships for the dog rescue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. All right. So let's talk Facebook, Instagram, how to get more performance out of your ads or out of our listeners' ads. Maybe they're not even running Facebook ads. Maybe they're thinking that Google is the place to spend their advertising money. What would you tell somebody, depending on where they are in that buyer journey? Maybe at the very beginning, not even spending any money on advertising, to they're already spending money on ads, but they don't know that they're getting the best performance. The ROAS might only be 2x, and who knows what's possible. But what advice would you give to these different folks?
Yeah, well, I mean, first, if you are spending on Google and that's working, especially with search, that might be the best place for you to spend those initial marketing dollars, right? Because it's people that are searching for your brand name or searching around terms that relate to your product. I mean, that is the warmest audience you could get in front of, right? They have that intent, but there's only so much scalability there. And so that's when these paid social platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, they all come into play because it's infinitely more scalable. Now, it's a bit more difficult because you got to get in front of someone who has never heard of you, is not searching these terms, right? Maybe we know something about them, like they're a mom or they're a pet owner. You know, we kind of know they're a certain avatar. And then we're going to try to get them to convert to buy our product. It's a much more difficult game, but it's a much more scalable game. You know, even our really big clients, let's take a client spending $100,000 a day on advertising. They're spending 90% of that on something like Facebook or YouTube. That's driving the cold traffic. Yes, it's converting. Yes, it's hitting our performance metrics. And then Google's just there to sweep up all of the low hanging fruit. So I think that's important to understand first, especially since you do have more of a search based audience here, is these things are not the same. And I would never want you to look at it like, and this isn't what you were saying, this is just what I hear commonly out in the market. Oh, well, Google converts better than Facebook. And it's like, well, I sure as heck hope it does. You know, it's a completely different ballgame. You know, that's like someone opening up the phone book and going to Yellow Pages and looking for a plumber versus, okay, I'm driving down the road and I see a billboard, right? That's paid social. Yellow Pages is Google. So that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Now, if this is interesting to you when it comes to paid social, and this is different and more important than when you're doing search-based stuff, is that the offer is everything, right? So what you're asking them to do on the first engagement with them, the first time they're seeing an ad from you, that is almost as important as the rest of the campaign, right? If that's not dialed in, doesn't matter the tactical side of what you're doing in Facebook. So usually for more of an information business, basically anyone who's not selling physical products online, that probably needs to start with some sort of lead magnet or some sort of very low dollar offer that allows you to start to build that relationship. We can't show up with these high priced courses or services, or, a lot of SaaS companies want to come out and be like, hey, sign up for my monthly subscription. You've never heard of me before, but nice to meet you. Right. That doesn't work in that scenario. We've got to start with offers that allow us to build the relationship more. If you are selling physical products, it is okay to send traffic directly to your product page if they've never heard of you. Just because of the nature of physical products, they're easier to understand, easier to make a rash decision on. So offer is everything, whether you're just getting started or whether, you're looking to scale. You got to make sure that strategy is right. I was just on with a student. He's selling a membership for a guitar program, which is really cool. He's got a few hundred people in a membership learning to play guitar. He's like, Molly, I try to go out to cold traffic with meta ads and no one buys my membership. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, no one wants a membership, right? I have an app on my phone that tells me which memberships I'm paying for every month or what recurring billing I have. Like that's a big enough pain point in humanity right now that there are apps to help you keep track of it. We got to start with something different. We got to give them some free tutorials, or you need to sell a low dollar challenge or product. So again, that's really, really, really important. And then when it comes to the actual ad campaign side of things, AI has made media buying so much easier. When we were here in 2016 talking, the strategy that I outlined was probably very sophisticated in terms of what needed to be set up to make something like this happen. AI, Facebook collecting the billions of data points they collect every day, it simplified a lot of things, but Facebook still needs inputs, and same thing with Google. So with Facebook, you give it a really good offer and avatar-based focus when you're starting out, right? A lot of people want to hop into a platform like Meta. All right, I'm selling guitar training and I'm just not going to select my targeting. I'm just going to use broad targeting or Advantage Plus because I'll let AI do it. Not that smart yet, right? We still need to be able to go in. There's still interests in Facebook we can target. There are millions of them, and highlight that market. A good example of this, a client came to us. They're called Sweet Flex, and they have these leggings with resistance bands built in. It's really cool. I'd never seen a product like this before. They were first a student. They had such a unique product that, with love to them, and they know this, pretty poor advertising, they were able to scale up to $30 to $50,000 dollars a month on Meta every month, doing pretty well. Then they handed us the reins. And they had really been focusing on, okay, we're selling leggings, so why don't we sell this to people that are into fitness? They care about this. And it was working okay, but it wasn't focused enough. And it wasn't actually the avatar that would buy their product upon seeing it for the first time. We looked at this, we said, this is perfect for moms. You burn 255 more calories a day by wearing these leggings just with your regular movements. That's perfect for someone that doesn't have a lot of time, that might be looking to get in better shape. Well, that change, us launching and then scaling campaigns that were specific to that mom avatar, that was the difference between $30,000 in profitable spend a month and $500,000 in profitable spend a month in just 3 or 4 months. So people, that's so important to this. And I could go down a really big rabbit hole here. I don't know how deep you want me to go, but those are the two biggest things: your offer and the group of people in which you're serving. And those are very different from search marketing. Even at the event at Facebook last week, they said, creative is your new targeting, which I don't necessarily agree with wholly. But basically what they're saying is, the more that you speak to a certain group of people, right, and your ad copy and your creative and your offers, the better this is going to perform, right? Versus just throwing it out into the universe. So those are our big focuses right now.
Oh, well, congratulations on the success with Sweet Flex. I'm curious to hear more about, maybe go down that rabbit hole a little bit more.
Yeah, just the paid media rabbit hole in general.
Yeah. So for example, Where did they get their biggest bang for their buck? Was it with Facebook? Was it with Instagram? What did they need to, and what did you and your team need to do in order to jump that gap going from the 30K to the 500K? What were some of the tests that you ran that worked and that didn't work, so you could course correct and improve as you went along?
Yeah, great. It was actually pretty simple. So, and these are the 5 steps that we use for everything that hasn't changed since 2016, but I'll structure it this way just so it's easy for you guys to consume. So we always start with the offer, which was easy for them. They're selling a physical product. Great. We can send right to the product page. Nothing really needs to be developed there. And if you guys go to SweetFlex's website, it's horrible. They know this. We're like, guys, this doesn't even show how cool the product is. Like that, all of that can be improved. But okay, we've got a product page to work with. Then we go to targeting/avatars. Who would actually buy this product? Who are the pockets of people? And how do we reach them? So that's when we decided, oh, moms. And we were looking at survey data from their email list. So many moms were buying the product. Like that's a no-brainer. It's a huge market. It's easy to identify on Facebook. It's something Facebook knows about people. It's not like you have eczema or something that's personal to someone that would be really hard to identify with on Facebook. It's like you're a mom. That's a pretty easy identifier on Facebook. There are hundreds of interests and ways to reach those people. So we're like, great. We've got an offer, we have an audience, and we know how to find them. Okay, what's next? So then next, and this is a mix of copy and creative, which are steps 3 and 4, but still, and this has been the trend for a while, showing real customers using and talking about how your product has changed their life is the best creative you could have on a paid social platform. It looks real. When it is authentic, it's believable. People don't feel like they're being sold to. So what we did is built an ambassador program. This is something we do and all of our businesses and our clients have. And an ambassador is not an influencer. An ambassador is someone that actually uses your product, physical or not, doesn't matter. So we send out to the customer list, hey, we're launching this ambassador program. If you feel comfortable on camera, if you love SweetFlex leggings, we would love to have you as an ambassador. We'll incentivize you with free product, which if they love your product, they'll definitely love free product. Then we send them very specific instructions. So we send them a camera in the mail. You don't have to do that, but we just want it to be nicer quality. And we send them very specific instructions. Now, this is not a script, right? These are open-ended questions that when they answer, give you the footage that you need, because it's not about, these are the best leggings in the world. I love them. They're the best leggings I've ever had. No, that's what a lot of people think UGC or user-generated content is. And they're like, Molly, it doesn't work. And I'm like, no offense, that's the most generic. It sounds like an ad, right? And how many times as a consumer every day do you see a business saying, this is the best, it's the best quality, right? It's also just speaking to the features and not the benefits. So we ask questions like, what was your life like before you consumed this product as a mom? Well, that opens them up to give you all the juicy details that are going to call in that avatar in the first place. Oh, it was chaotic and I have 4 boys and their names are this and this and they're these ages and I was trying to get a workout in, but Joe has soccer practice and all of those details that we think don't matter, but they are the story that actually attracts the right audience and that makes it feel like an authentic ad, because it is. We ask them things like, what is life like afterwards? Well, now I'm burning all these calories. My legs look different than they have. And I don't even have to go to the gym, right? I'm just being a mom. And then we say, if you were to recommend this product to another mom friend, what would you say? When you say that, that allows them to take that like, ooh, I'm creating a marketing ad right now, hat off, and gets them into just like organically, what would you say to a friend? So you get great footage from that. And then those are the base source of what becomes our copy and our creative. And that's not everything that we do, but it is the first thing and the most scalable and highest converting thing. And what we've moved to now in the last 6 months is less face to camera. Consumers are catching on that that is an ad because everybody's doing UGC now. And it's really hard to edit. So say there's a piece of it, Stephan, that's like really good that you want to pull out and maybe test as the opening hook. That's really hard when it's face to camera to edit that. So what we've started to do now is have them actually record more of like B-roll footage. So one of the moms, had her kids jumping on her back. Then she's pushing the stroller. And then she records voiceovers of the questions she answered. And what that is number one, it looks more authentic now because it's kind of more how people are consuming video, like based off of TikTok, more watching people than listening to them talk to you face to camera. And then we could launch 20 variations, right? And we're able to dice it up without that issue of, well, that's not the words that are coming out of that person's mouth. So that's what we did with SweetFlex. We only built probably 2 or 3 of those. One started to take off. We were in a whole new market that's a huge market that will buy things that are cool. The product is absolutely exceptional and novel. We're not just trying to sell leggings. We're selling leggings in a way they have never seen before. It's still doable if you don't have a novel product, but a novel product really helps. And then we're showing footage and telling stories about the life of that particular avatar. And that's really what led us to that place. So we scaled until they ran out of stock. And now it's just trying to keep the inventory in place and encouraging them to launch new products. So we have other things to sell, of course. And now, of course, we're going out to other avatars also. So yeah, those are the steps. So copy and creative are 3 and 4. 5 is campaign structure. So that's tactically how are you setting up the campaigns? This has changed a bit in the last few years. Now there's Website Plus Shop. Now there's Advantage Plus. You still have your old school campaigns on Meta, ABO or CBO. Honestly, we're using a mix of all of them depending on the business. But that tactical side isn't as relevant as it was in 2016 when we would have to set up, 150 ad sets to run the right test. It's like, that's just not needed anymore.
Yeah. So how many ad sets, tests, and things like that are you normally setting up for your clients?
Depends on what you're doing. With an Advantage Plus campaign, there's one ad set because essentially what you're doing with that is letting Facebook's AI select your targeting. So you're giving them the offer, you're giving them the creative copy. It's very similar to Google PMax. And it's very effective, especially if you have data in your account already. If you're starting out, that's not where I would start because it's just too broad. Facebook doesn't know enough. But that type of campaign only has one ad set. Now, even if that's working in an account, we're not just going to rely on that. We want more scale. So we're also setting up, old school direct response campaigns. We're usually using ABO. We launch with 5 to 10 ad sets. Interest groups mixed together, lookalikes are making a comeback. And then based off of the results, we will start to scale and add more ad sets with the winning ads, bump them into new ad sets that have new targeting options that are similar but different, and use that to vertically scale that campaign.
Cool. And you said lookalikes are making a comeback. When did they go away and when did they come back?
Ooh, after iOS 14.5 and Facebook just took a huge data hit, they just weren't as powerful because there wasn't as much source data for them to be based off of. I'm not sure exactly why, but we're just seeing stronger performance with them the last 6 to 12 months. They've made a comeback. And what's cool about lookalikes is, back in the day, it used to be 1, 2, 3% lookalikes that would convert the best. We're finding that we can go all the way up to 10 in a lot of accounts, depending on the amount of data that they have. And those bigger ones are working too. So, we're using a lot of lookalikes nowadays.
Yeah. So, what do you find is the most effective start of a funnel or a buyer journey? Is it a webinar? Is it a lead magnet, a tripwire, some combination, or depends on the client and their product or service?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, first, it's the type of business, kind of like I talked about earlier. If you're e-commerce and your product is less than, let's say, $300 or $400, you can get a long way. With SweetFlex, that's still the only offer style we're running direct to product page. Now, if you're selling anything else, then of course it depends on what you're selling. Low dollar entry point offers do work, whether you're selling a course or some sort of membership or SaaS. Having that a la carte purchase and then trying to sell them onto subscription does work. You'll usually need to put a lead magnet on that at some point, right, to scale it. So you're not just going direct to purchase the whole time. But like at Smart Marketer, we use many different front end styles. So promotionally, so more to our warm audiences, when we're in a launch, we're doing webinars still. They still convert. You don't have the live show up rate that you did 10 years ago. We just offer a replay and some scarcity around the replay. That works wonderfully for us. Video series don't work as well as they used to for us. I think it's just because consumer consumption behavior has changed a lot over the last 10 to 15 years. A lot of people want it now. They don't want to wait for a video to be dripped out in a few days and then you've just kind of lost their attention. So in a lot of those scenarios, when we're wanting to do it more evergreen, we just position it as a free online training. Instead of breaking them up into multiple videos, we just give it all to them right in the moment. And then, of course, we're still running, simple lead magnets. What are, assets that someone would find valuable that they'll be willing to give you their contact information in exchange for, and you get to build a relationship with them. So for us at Smart Marketer, our best lead magnets right now are every year, we analyze all the ads we ran from the previous year and create a swipe file and an analysis that where people can get inspiration and learn. That's our ad report. That is our cheapest cost per lead because it's most valuable to our audience. And then they go into a funnel where we try to sell them our ad course. We also have that for email. We have something called the e-commerce growth map that's very specific to e-com businesses. That is an hour-long training with Ezra that shows exactly how he builds an e-commerce business. Then we upsell our e-commerce course. It's a nice mix. It really depends. It changes if you're trying to get someone on subscription because that's a different mindset, as we talked about earlier. But lead magnets, low dollar offer are main entry points to cold traffic with paid ads for us for non-e-com businesses.
Would you say that courses have jumped the shark now that the pandemic is over with and people are, back to kind of their normal lives? They don't have all that time to consume course content and they're just over it. And so now you have to give them some sort of group coaching program or some sort of program that feels much more than just a self-paced on-demand course.
100%. Because even if you have novel information in your course, the thought is going to be, because information is so saturated now, oh, I could get this on YouTube. Even if that's not the case, that's what they believe because information is so readily available on almost every topic now. So it has to be some sort of experience that you're selling. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you differentiate?
Maybe not for cheaper things, but at least if you're selling something more than
Yeah.
$500.
So how does Smart Marketer differentiate the courses and make them more like experiences?
So our experiences we call mentorships. So we teach them live a few times a year. So like Train My Traffic Person that I mentioned earlier is the one that I teach. They get dripped out course information, but there's also a community and feedback loop, which I think a lot of people need for implementation. So we have a Slack group, we have weekly calls. So they're not just learning, they're doing every week. And then they have me and my team there to help them get unstuck. And we found that that community element, that coaching element is what people are really willing to pay for.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. What is the typical ROAS that you're finding with your clients, and what would our listener probably be getting in, because they're not using you, your your team, so they're not probably getting as good of ROAS. What's typical, and what is kind of the minimum threshold that you look for with your team's performance?
Yeah, I really, really like this discussion because I think this is a big misconception with paid ads. With search based ads, again, there's only so much volume. So, of course, you want to see as high amount of ROAS as possible, right? Because, okay, there's 10,000 people searching or looking for this every month. I want to maximize my profit on that. I understand. Paid social is a completely different ballgame. So first off, I'll give you a ROAS calculator that people can use. It's just a formula in Google Sheets that they can input information about their business and it will spit out what we would recommend the ROAS be. But this is something that we hear with that swipe file a lot, for example, that we give out because we put the ROAS on next to the ad. And a lot of people are like, why would I listen to you? These ads have a zero 0.8 ROAS or they have a 1 ROAS. That's horrible. I can get a 10 ROAS. And with paid social, if you are getting a 10 ROAS, you have a serious problem, right? You should not be using paid social as a way to put in $1 and make $5 more top of funnel. You should be using paid social to acquire as many customers you can at break even or a little bit of profit margin based off of your repeat customer rate, right? And your lifetime value so that you can truly grow your business. So that is a shift that we have when a lot of clients come on, we crunch their numbers and we say, hey, based off of what you're doing, this is the point of profitability for you. What is your risk tolerance, right? This should be looked at almost like an investment portfolio, right? How into the negative are you willing to go? When do you need to see the profitability? Because the longer we can push that out, the more customers we're able to acquire. Then we do a promotion, then they come back and buy, and this thing just grows exponentially. It's how, we've seen our clients go from 0 to $80 million a year because they have this smart investment strategy mindset when it comes to this way of thinking. And it's per funnel. So we might talk to a client and they need to make a little bit of money on the first sale, and that's okay. But they accept that that is limiting their market share. That's limiting the amount of customers they can acquire. And that's okay. For some clients, it might be a 2 ROAS, for example. Okay, that's what we need. We still need a little bit of profitability. Some of our clients are just so ready to scale that a 0.5 ROAS is really good for them because that's the difference in 500 customers acquired today or 5,000 customers acquired today. And they have the whole customer journey built out so that they know on day 45, they're making their money back at a much greater scale than they would have with the other mindset. So it really depends on the business. It depends on their repeat customer rate. It depends on what they're selling. Anyone with a subscription, for example, even with supplements, they're running on much lower ROAS top of funnel because they know their numbers. We have clients that are selling maybe a $10,000 health optimization package, and that's the only thing that they sell. Well, they might need a 5 ROAS or a 7 ROAS because that's the only profit that they're going to generate from that person ever. So anyways, it's just so different. And I just don't want listeners with paid social. A lot of people look at something, they're like, oh, that's a bad ROAS. I don't want that. But it's actually way more to do with the numbers in the business and the strategy around them growing that business.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, I know we're at time here. If you had one last nugget of wisdom that you wanted to share that we haven't discussed already, what would it be?
I just have fun with what you're doing. Like if you're not waking up and really excited about what you're doing, rethink it. There's so many different ways to use the skill sets that we acquire, right? Like we have really rare, cool, very interesting skill sets and impactful skill sets in this industry. And it doesn't have to be applied in the way that maybe you're doing it right now. Maybe it's a nonprofit, maybe it's another business, maybe it's working for someone else, maybe it's getting into a market that you're actually interested in. This stuff applies across the board. My fiance opened a restaurant here in our hometown about a year ago, and it's just rocking because we spend $10 a day on Facebook ads, right? It's so simple. And just remember that your career isn't just the skill set you acquire, it's the way in which you use that and use it in ways that are fun and interesting to you, and work with people that you love, like we talked about earlier, because it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Molly, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your strategies and thoughts on not just meta advertising, but also business and life. So if our listener wants to work with your agency team, if they want to learn from you by perhaps taking one of your mentorship courses, where should they go?
Yeah, smartmarketer.com. There's a courses tab, there's a work with us tab. Also, listen to the podcast. Yeah, everything's at smartmarketer.com. And thanks, Stephan, for having me back again.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Molly. Thank you, listener. Make it a great week. Reveal some light in the world, and we will see you on the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.